Your itinerary is being recalculated. At the next intersection, turn right. Turn right. You are driving in the wrong direction. Please turn around. Your destination is 3 miles away. Your destination is 2 miles away. Your destination is 1.5 miles away. Your destination is 1 mile away. Your destination is a half a mile away.
The mailbox is full and cannot accept any messages at this time. Goodbye.
彷徨的人，彷徨的人，你是在十字街头的你。彷徨的人，彷徨的人，你是在十字街头的你。彷徨的人，彷徨的人，你是在十字街头的你。你是在十字街头的你，你是在十字街头的你。 Thank you.
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4.
今天不回家。今天不回家。今天不回家。不回家，不回家，今天不回家。不回家，不回家，今天不回
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 is not available. At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
Your destination is 3 miles away. Your destination is 3 miles away. Your destination is 1.5 miles away. Your destination is 1 mile away. You have reached your destination.
Sisila, ila, ila, Sisila, ila, ila.
By the end, let's start with that sort of question, though, about what it means to try to think about music's role in responding to this sense of pervasive loss and environmental change that we all face right now. And perhaps, Shih-Hui, if you don't mind, if I could start and ask you to start thinking to talk to us a little bit.
So if I have microphone on,
I'll just trade you.
that one works?
Hello.
Hello.
There we go.
Okay. All right. Thanks. So this piece is about preservation, conservation, conservation of language, lost cultures, and of course, indigenous Taiwanese people's music, and also the endangered species like whales. So Sisila ila ila means saying goodbye. So in the beginning of the piece, you can feel the sad and this nostalgia feeling about the past, and all these good old days, and sort of feel lost while we are in this really busy city life, and then you long for this, the past, long for the nature, and so middle of the piece, you feel like there's bigger self. You're part of nature, and then toward the end of the piece, you feel, okay, I feel I'm a bigger self, I have a nature, it's part of me, so you feel this happy ending. We have a Beethoven, a happy ending to helping us to do that. So, Sisila ila ila, in the indigenous peoples is saying goodbye, but the goodbye they're saying, it's very interesting, it's not really sad, say, oh, you're gone. No, it's a song that's sending off friends, like, take care of yourself, please, we'll see you again. So it's a very hopeful saying goodbye. So that's why the end of the piece is hopeful. Once we found ourselves in the midst of nature or bigger self, we feel we can move forward, we can go forward to the better future.
Well, and it's interesting that that was a really beautiful description of what's happening in the piece. And also it's in tune with the way a lot of people have talked lately. Conservation was a term much more in vogue maybe sort of 40, 50 years ago, partly because of the realization that, wait a minute, it's not about going back to something. Things have changed. So what does it mean to adapt and to live with circumstances as they change, and to not necessarily have loss or grief be the only thing that you sort of feel in those circumstances. So maybe sort of playing with that word adaptation, maybe I'll ask others to also start joining in. What does it mean to think about how various worlds of music and performance tune into sort of natural cycles, tune into the kind of the wild and sort of wide world around humans when they sort of look past the sort of extraordinary but sort of tunneled cities, to sort of say, that they live in. I'd love to have others sort of jump in now.
I just want to jump in and say something about the notion of, which you asked, the role of music. One of the things that I found myself doing a lot of is working in contemporary music, whatever that is. I mean, music that's being written as we are still alive. And it's important to always remember that all music was new once. And the cool thing about music of our time is that you actually have to listen to it because you've never heard it before. And so it forces you to be listening to something in a new way. And I think that's a lot about what this piece is about. We're listening. We only started listening to whales around the 1960s. We've heard them, but we haven't listened to them. And I think that's one of the things about music, is that particularly new music, is that it puts us in a place where we have to actually listen to each other.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right, Doug, that this music is all around us, and it's been around in nature millions of years before humans ever showed up. So humpback whale song was new music once, millions of years ago, before there were even humans. And no other species of whale makes any sound like this, really. Only humpback whales sing. But the amazing thing is humans knew nothing about this until the 1960s, because we hadn't made underwater microphones. And so all of a sudden we had this new idea, whales sing. And at the time, we had nearly exterminated all these giant whales from the whaling industry. We were very good at killing them. We weren't so good at learning about their lives. And it was, in fact, the song of the humpback whale that really saved whales. You might have heard the idea, save the whales. Where did it come from? This song, once the humpback whale song was released to the public in 1971, it became a multi-platinum album. It's the best-selling nature recording of all time. It's almost a cliche of the 60s. But people found these songs so beautiful, they started bursting into tears when they heard this. And Scott McVeigh, one of the two guys who described the structure of this song, he went to Japan with an armload of LPs and played it for whaling executives in Japan. And they burst into tears saying, "We didn't know. We didn't know." It didn't lead them to stop killing whales, but most other countries in the world decided by 1986 there should be a moratorium on commercial whaling. And that's why there's enough humpback whales around to record and play music along with. And This particular recording that we picked to use comes from Tonga, where a guy running a whale watching, operation, he gave me that recording. He said, "This is the best one I've got." And so Shih-Hui also picked up on what was so beautiful about this and taught us all to be a little bit whale-like in this piece.
Please go ahead.
I actually just wanted to very quickly address a couple of things that you had said earlier, but tying it all together. One has to do, obviously, with the fact that we all have this responsibility to respond to the current situation. And certainly as an artist, it is an extraordinary privilege to really work alongside these three giants in my life, I have to say. We're all coming it together only for the first time, and many of you've only just seen the work for an hour, but you may not know that, in fact, David has been responding to the environment for the last 30 years. He's played with whales, he's played with bugs, he's played with birds. And yes, and yes. Shh, don't tell them that. And so learning from him, learning from how he listens, is a huge privilege because he has been responding the moment he was able. In fact, today at lunchtime, we were talking about how he proposed a new degree for Harvard to consider, which is music and communication. And already back then, as a young man, those were ideas. It was then and it's now. So there is so much to him that none of us can quite get enough of. And Shih-Hui, of course, is an old friend. And the material you've written for me has been so singular and so personal and so suited to the viola, and picks up, the unique timbre of what the viola can do. And so when this expanded theatrical version came together, it threw me into a new role. I have to embrace certain uncomfortable elements, but it's good therapy for me. And
I don't think you will see her dancing on the stage.
No.
Yeah. Not many places you can see that.
But then meeting Doug and working with your incredibly talented and brilliant brain, but knowing somehow he and David went to school together, they were the same class. So all of us framing back to say, somehow there's a cyclical process and sort of the magic of life in many ways that we didn't anticipate this coming together in such a beautiful way. But I feel as if the project carries very deeply personal connections to all of us, and each of us are giving in a way that is so generous and so unlimited. And so, it is actually going to keep growing because I think we all hear possibilities. Yeah.
What you're all reminding me, too, is that something that we rely on, whether we're arts makers or arts lovers or both, is thinking through art as a way of paying attention, and a way of of communicating, sure, at times, but also very much a way of paying attention. So, Shih-Hui, if I could ask you to talk a little bit about some of the elements that you've brought together to ask us to pay attention to. So we talked a little bit about whale song, but if you could say a little bit more, too, about indigenous folk song, and then also even puppets. And there might be others who want to jump in on these as well. But it's a fascinating mix you've put together. You've created a kind of wonderful ecosystem, right, within the piece to try to get at these bigger questions about ecosystems.
All right. This piece began with the indigenous people's songs in 1966. It was encouraged by the dean of East Asia Institute in Bonn, Germany. He encouraged the ethnomusicologists to collect the folk songs and indigenous music. And so this recording was kept in Taiwan, but mostly also completely in the institute in Germany. And so 2012, when the dean was about 82 years old, he felt this collection should go back to his people. Why is it in Germany? So he personally delivered these pieces, these recordings, back to Taiwan, and so that so they received it, digitalize it, cleaned it, and verified, and go back to village, and so this is a really interesting process, going back and forth. Then the Taiwanese government they feel like, what does it do in the air, right? A digital world. Why don't we write pieces and then bring it back to Germany? So last year, 2022, we have a concert there. I was very lucky. One of the two composers to chose to write this piece. Went back to Germany, have a concert in Bonn, and I just thought that we at that time we know the Ukraine was occupied, and now we have Israel, this really complicated situation in the world. But we never heard about this wonderful collaboration among us as human beings, the cultural exchange and helping each other. I think this is a much better story to tell. My original piece is only 7 minutes long, and that's too short to tell. So I feel we need a whole evening length of a concert to tell the story. So I did a little research and I realized, the 1966 Congress passed the Endangered Species Protection Act. 1966, exactly the same years. So I throw in another pop songs during my childhood. I love that song. What do you hear? The Xing sang so beautifully. And then the very last piece was the puppet theater. That is, in fact, very endangered art as well, because at one point, there was more than 1,000 puppet theaters in Taiwan, shadow puppet theater in Taiwan, but now there's only one. And we're very lucky to work with the 7th generation of a puppet theater. They established in 1820. And so this is all the conservation, preservation of our treasure we should have. So that's why all these pieces are sort of put together in this way.
I mean, Doug, you had so much to do with how it appears for us on the stage. Maybe you could say a little bit too about how you thought through working with all these different elements in the production of tonight's piece.
Okay, let's see. I remember we were thinking about this. We've done a couple of collaborations before, and we have so much fun, frankly, doing these things. So I think part of it was, well, if we don't want to complain about the nature of the world and to remind everybody that the climate is a disaster, we don't want to do that. We want to make something joyful and fun to watch and still get the message through, a different means, just as you were saying. And I think just to reiterate what you said was the saying goodbye is not forever. It's kind of like see you later, hopefully with the indigenous cultures, because by preserving this song, just like preserving the whale song, we kind of have a bigger interest in these things. And if you see a real shadow puppet show, this was an invention of entertainment pre-television. People would go to these things all the time because they were so entertaining. This really loud gong music and drums and very simple stories, but very energetic. And it's sort of like saying goodbye to that. Well, maybe we can reinvigorate some energy behind that form, that art form, and we have to do it in a new way. We can't afford to bring the whole troupe of puppeteers here, but we can bring their skills and their puppets in a new way by preserving something, by filming it. I'll just do a little shout out to Greta Detlefs here, who's came from Germany, all the way from Germany to help me do this project, and she was responsible for making all of the shadow puppets in my studio this time around, so thank you very much. We made them in an entirely different way, yes. This is kind of a funny story, just because when the idea of shadow puppet started with a conversation that we had, well, we're writing a new piece of new music, chamber music. I guess it's going to live in that ghetto of chamber music festivals, and then all the same people are going to go to it, and nobody else, and children will never come and see it. So how do we do it? Maybe we can pretend it's just a show, and then they put on new music, and no one will notice. And that's sort of how it grew. If we can use shadow puppets, and that'll be cool. cool. And then shadow puppets, Shih-Hui found this incredible group of shadow puppet theater. Would you want to work with them? And I said, of course. So we went there and we spent some time working with them to do that. So it grew from that. And then I took back, a new idea of how to make shadow puppets out of plastic and with laser cutting and some scissors and new ways. And we just kept inventing. So the other part of all of this that you can't tell is that all of this has to be put together after we shoot it all. And that's all done by Tommy Nguyen over there. Thank you, Tommy. It's an incredible amount of work to put all that storytelling together. Anyway, so it's a kind of puppet show, but the puppeteers are, also behind the scenes and everything.
Sure. Maybe I can ask the two performers to talk a little bit now, too, about another question before we maybe open it up and see if anyone in the audience wants to join in. David, Zinyan, so we've got viola and clarinet. So I'm going to ask maybe a fanciful question. I'll start maybe, David, with you if I could. Do you think whales would enjoy the sound of the clarinet?
Well, it's hard to tell exactly when a whale is happy or sad. So there aren't so many studies in science done of the emotional states of whales, but I think, but scientists and musicians have played a lot of sounds to whales, and they definitely respond to these sounds. And humpback whales are kind of unique among singing animals in that they evolve their song all the time. They change it, but not to be different from each other. Certain bird species want to sound different from each other. Every individual wants to sound better, so they're competing. But the whales all want to sound the same, but they change the song together. So they introduce a new element in the song, and then everyone else wants to sing it too. So this has been hypothesized as the whale pop song theory, that you just need a new song that kind of sounds like the old songs, but it has to always be changing. So I don't know. I think whales like to play along with humans who listen to them and don't just do their own thing, who actually change their music in the context of this other animal and really are open to transformation. And some human musicians can do that, but not all. And I think she knows exactly what I'm talking about. So tell us.
Some human musicians. I wonder. That's so fantastic. Okay, so yes, in fact, one of the most thrilling aspects of inventing this entire show is really that each of us have the ability to pipe in. It is a completely democratic, and the team is extraordinary. Everybody has great ideas, and everyone is open-minded, and we're flexible. So, in fact, until about half an hour before the show starts, we were still making changes. So there were moments I forgot what I was supposed to do, and I thought, well, I'm on stage to make up something. But same with sounds. I think a lot of what this has taught us, and thank you for this extraordinary whale sounds, because honestly, whenever we run through 3 times maybe, for me the highlight was behind the scene, listening to the whales. To me, that is the most beautiful sound. It is so incredibly intimate. It's varied. It's colorful. It's expressive. And when we have to imitate, at the beginning, I found myself being just too loud. I just thought, and Shih-Hui's idea was, well, the viola leads, so everyone follows. But after a little while, I just want to get back and make space for the really interesting sounds that's around us. And I think that's the core of what we hope to do, is to train artists or just people, human, to make space to allowing each other to be as collaborative, as meaningful as possible in every circumstances. I mean, this, thank God, is about sound, and we have an extraordinary team. So every time you come here, I hope you come many times, many of the shows. I'm sure it will be different each time, actually. I think maybe that's our selling point. You don't know what you're going to get into.
Well, it's something interesting that you raise. I mean, in the production, the viola stands in for a kind of an individual. We even see that visually right on that screen over there. But we also know music is about ensemble, right? And then what we have is a kind of fascinating generosity in which all sorts of things become part of the ensemble, and it becomes about listening, and it becomes moving from that sort of, here I am thyself, the viola wandering through the world, to what does it mean to be in tune with other things around?
I'm sorry, I don't mean to hog the mic, but actually I do find the role of viola so relevant in the whole context, because when I was 10, the reason I wanted to play the viola was to help the orchestra, and that was how I started. In Taiwan, we didn't know there was no viola. I mean, I didn't know what the sound was, and so the first time I fell in love really with the instrument was the Haydn quartet. The first time I heard the Haydn Sunrise Quartet, I just had tears. I remember thinking, what is that middle voice that is so extraordinarily beautiful, but it draws no attention to itself, but it's like the glue that holds everything. And I think when we talk about listening, that is something, it's so essential for all of us, but particularly for violists, because so often you need to support different instruments. You piggyback on the cello, you support the violins in different ways. Sometimes you're the rhythm, sometimes you're texture. So to be given a role where I need to be in and out all the time, it's a huge privilege. It's really a huge privilege. But yeah, I listen with great pleasure to everybody around me. Sorry, I was stopped.
No, that's great. Thank you. Maybe we have time for a couple of questions. We don't really have a roving mic today, so if you have a question, please stand and project.
Sure. Originally, the Tonghua shadow puppet tradition, they're all made out of, originally water buffalo hide. And the ones that we used, the dragons and the ones in the actual puppet show, those are like 100 years old, and they're really durable. You can throw them around as they were doing. They're incredibly durable. The new ones that I was drawing pictures of, a family of viola. I will say that when we had our first Zoom call with the puppet master, right, and his daughter, who's now running the family business, I thought I was going to help them by offering laser cutting skills and stuff, which I don't have, by the way, but.
It's a lot. We have a lot of puppets.
Because we had so many puppets in mind that we were going to ask them to make so many puppets. On the Zoom call, they were listening until I said, I have a Taiwanese friend who has a laser cutter, and we'd love to be able to. And the old master just simply walked away. He said, I looked up later why that might be the case in this, because their whole tradition of making hand-cut shadow puppets is being destroyed because of the laser cutter. People are laser cutting shadow puppets for the tourist industry. So it's like, okay, I guess we need to do a little more research. In any case, the way we made them was out of a kind of vinyl plastic, and found out that there's alcohol inks that you can paint with this. It was a whole new technique. We just kind of made it up as we went along, and melted some little pinpoints out of plastic between the joints, and put them horizontally on a light table, and operated them horizontally. It was just the way we did it. So.
Did the master ever come back? But that was the last you heard of him.
He did eventually,
Yeah,
but in the nowadays they also use that technique, and they showed us how to do it, because they have a technique too. So to promote this, they teach to young kids, and so of course use plastic or paper is so much easier, and then you use the skin.
Yeah, actually, if you want to make your own really easily, they have a great system, which is you just take a piece of pretty transparent paper, like really any ordinary white paper, and you can use magic markers on it, and you take it to the store, and you have it laminated on both, just laminated, and then you can cut it out, and you put it together with brads. And that's how all the family violas were made. They made all those puppets too that way. But what's really cool about what they do is how they operate them. The skill is so extraordinary. They can operate with just 2 sticks. They can make all of these stories happen so fast. It's really cool. Next. Oh, next. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Yes, sure. Yes, hi.
Hi, I had a question for the composer. This was such an amazing piece and a pleasure to listen to. What was your process in combining indigenous and Taiwanese music with modern classical music?
What is my process? What? Combining. Yeah. I'm a kind of composer trying to integrate it. So I don't like something just jump out really a shock. So I might, even with my the new music modern style, I would put a little bit seeds in there. You might not notice as you hear because I expand it or make it smaller, shorten it or fragment it in different way doing it. But it's always integrating in the new music as well. So it's not just all of a sudden, this has nothing to do with the new music. New music has nothing to do with old music. And so the integration, it's really, I feel passionate about that, yeah.
Yes, please.
Listening to it, I felt like it was very rooted in time and timing. Can you speak to the role of time and that timing in the work?
Wow, that's amazing question in time.
I'm just happy to hear that.
I think that when I grew up, I was learning only Western music, and I know Beethoven music more than I know Taiwanese music. But I did spend 2 years study Nangua music in Taiwan. And after I studied Nangua music, I really have a different sense of timing, of a time, which is very different than the Western music. I feel Western music is progressive, It's like Beethoven motet, but boom, 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 boom. But the Asian time is so much expensive. It's unfolding. It allows things to happen. So and for that, the graphic notation or a little bit more of rubato allow the performer to come in, to expand a little more. That helps, and then this really measured, like 3/4 bar, 4/4 bar, 5/4 bar. That's everybody come together. It's different. So of course, we have moments like that. There's place they have to come together, absolutely come together. But there are moments they are sort of floating each other. There's different lines and different line. And I think that's notation is extremely important because notation can express different kind of music and different kind of way of listening to music as well.
I think one thing that might not be quite clear to listeners, we actually have, I would call, multiple sound space that was always going on at the same time. So the musicians have a set of scores we play from. And yes, sometimes they're 3/4, 4/4. Sometimes Shih-Hui literally just writes 15 seconds, 8 seconds. So we repeat things and we somehow intuitively have to figure out how long that passage is. And of course, we work out cues with each other so we know when to come in. But then the third thing are all the computer-generated electronic components. And that, in fact, has to be fairly closely synced with live music. And so that whole aspect is, first of all, Shih-Hui is a genius at hearing it all and figuring out which portion has to be somehow notated in different ways. The electronic music is worked out separately, and our wonderful clarinetist, one other clarinetist, Josh, his other job is he has a foot pedal, and so he cues the electronic sounds. So these things are all absolutely coordinated and rehearsed to the T. So there's hopefully when things align, like when the chord comes in and we finish the process, we know exactly when that's going to come. But that's being worked out by Shih-Hui ahead of time, and we needed to work. So when we were rehearsing, if there were minor things that we need to adjust, we knew what to look for, what to listen for. But it's like multiple sound space all going on at the same time.
Sorry, I need to give credit to Buddy, who was one helping me putting this sound together and then putting the cue together. Thank you, thank you.
I was just thinking as you were all talking in response to that question about timescales, we had a wonderful event the other day with David Rothenberg on campus, and I discovered something, which is one of his many, many books, which is now published as whale music. I had an earlier edition called 1,000 Mile Song. So there's also a whole other timescale that we could think about once we understand the role that whale music might be playing in the performance. It's a completely different idea of time.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of animal sounds that people identify as songs, bird songs, insect songs, whale songs. And I think we recognize that the way these sounds work is closer to music than to language, in that not a lot of information is necessarily being passed across as much as performances, patterns, and rhythms that have to be done a certain way for these animals to do what they need to do. So humpback whales can sing for 24 hours at a time. And their song has sections. It moves from one to another. We heard the way we heard it here. We didn't hear all of that. We started to, like, sometimes they go for like 2 minutes, and they switch to and if you look at the score, like sort of drawn out by scientists, you can see the structure, and after a while they'll switch to and so they go high and low, but it's not like a bunch of separate grunts and noises. It's a structured thing, and when they're done doing it, then they start again and do it. And already in the 70s we found out that these songs are just done by the males. So it was generally assumed by scientists this is somehow to attract the attention of female whales. Like, okay, so people have been studying this for 50 years now. How often do you think they've seen a female whale show any interest in this whole activity? Zero. They've never seen them. They don't care. So maybe, just maybe, it's about something else, and we don't really understand as much about animals as we thought.
About that is like, the more you think about these things and listen to this stuff, and it's like, we just are such the most egocentric species on the planet. And why do we always say, oh, it's just amazing that dog like gets excited and understands what I'm thinking, and the bird seems to respond when I play my flute or something like.
I don't know if you've heard of this book. There's a recent book by Justin Gregg called If Nietzsche Were a Narwhal. Yes. And it's this great book about, people think animals are smart if they do something like us. But, so many things they do are not like us, that one thing that doesn't occur in the animal world is moral outrage. No species of animal is shocked by the behavior of other members of their species. They don't go like, I can't believe you're doing that. No, that's not allowed, Animals do all kinds of weird stuff, and they say, okay, fine, They don't have moral outrage. So something to think about in today's fractious times.
So I'm sure there are tons of questions, but after that conversation and the impromptu symphony of whale song that we got from David, it might be that this is a good place to bring this to a close and to continue the conversation, the reception. So first, let me thank David Rothenberg, Shih-Hui Chen, Doug Fitch, and Xin Yun Huang for this incredible conversation, and we'll see you upstairs at the reception.